Life has a mysterious way of bringing together those who've lost it all with those who seem to have everything. What you're about to hear isn't just a story, it's a journey through loss, hope, and the kind of love that changes everything. Stay with me until the end, because this tale may touch your heart in ways you'll never forget. And before we begin, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Kindness Stories, where we share inspiring tales of compassion and second chances every day. It was a bitter winter night in Chicago. The streets sparkled under the glow of streetlights, but the icy wind cut through like a blade. For most people, the city looked alive and magical. For Grace, it was cold and cruel. She sat outside the diner where she worked, wrapped in a thin, worn-out coat. Her shift had ended, but she had nowhere to go, maybe the shelter, if there was room. Otherwise, the streets. At just 23, Grace had already endured more than many face in a lifetime. Her father abandoned her as a child. Her mother passed away after years of illness. With no family, no stability, and barely enough to survive, Grace clung to the only treasure her mother had left her, a tattered Bible she kept locked away at the shelter. She once dreamed of becoming a teacher. Life, however, had stolen those dreams, leaving her only with the will to keep going. That night, as she worked the late shift, Grace noticed a man sitting quietly in the corner booth. A little girl slept against his arm. He had been there for hours, nursing his coffee in silence. His eyes were tired, weighted, not by restlessness, but by grief. Grace recognized that look. She watched how tenderly he brushed a lock of hair from his daughter's cheek, and it made her heart ache. When Grace came to clear the table, the man finally spoke. "She's had a rough time lately," he murmured. Grace glanced at the little girl, small, delicate, angelic. "She's beautiful," she whispered. "How old is she?" 6, he replied softly. "Her name is Sophie. Her mother passed away a few months ago." The words struck Grace like a blow. She knew that pain all too well. Swallowing hard, she whispered, "I'm so sorry." The man studied her for a moment before asking gently, "What's your name?" "Grace." "I'm Michael," he said, offering his hand. She shook it, and in that instant, she felt something unexpected. His handshake was steady, yet filled with a quiet gentleness. What Grace didn't know was that Michael Bennett wasn't just a grieving father, he was one of the wealthiest men in the city. A hotel magnate with more money than most could dream of. But none of that mattered tonight. Tonight, he wasn't a billionaire. He was simply a father, broken and searching for something money could never buy. Michael returned to the diner often, sometimes with Sophie, sometimes alone. He always sat quietly, watching Grace work. She was different from the rest. She didn't force smiles for bigger tips or complain when treated unfairly. She carried herself with quiet dignity, even in the face of hardship. One freezing night, as Grace stepped outside after her shift, hugging her coat tightly around herself, a sleek black car pulled up. The window rolled down and there was Michael. "Grace," he called softly, "let me give you a ride. It's too cold out here." She hesitated, shaking her head. I don't really have a place. Sometimes I stay at the shelter." Michael's face changed, confusion mixed with sorrow. "You don't have a home?" Embarrassed, Grace looked away. But something inside Michael broke in that moment. This woman, who had shown such kindness to his daughter, was facing nights on the street. He couldn't walk away. "Please, Grace," he urged. "Let me help you." That night, Grace sat in warmth for the first time in years. Michael gave her a room in one of his hotels, asking nothing in return. At first, she resisted, pride whispering that she didn't deserve it, but when little Sophie ran into her arms with innocent joy, Grace couldn't say no. Days turned into weeks. Grace grew close to Sophie, brushing her hair, helping with homework, tucking her into bed when Michael was busy. Slowly, Sophie began to smile again. The laughter that had vanished with her mother returned. Because of Grace. Michael noticed. One evening, after Grace had finished reading Sophie a bedtime story, she found Michael waiting quietly in the hallway. His eyes held something deeper than gratitude. "Grace," he said softly, "I don't just want to thank you for what you've done for Sophie. I want to ask you something that could change everything." Grace's heart skipped. "What do you mean?" He stepped closer, his voice trembling. "Be my wife, and be her mother." Grace froze. Surely, she had misheard. But his eyes were steady, filled with sincerity. "I know it sounds sudden," he continued. "I know your life hasn't been easy, neither has mine. But Grace, you're the first person who's made Sophie laugh again. The first person who's made me feel alive. I don't care about your past. I care about you. Marry me, not just for me, but for her." Grace's hands trembled. It felt impossible, unreal. That night, she lay awake, Michael's words echoing in her mind. Be my wife. Be her mother. Was it too good to be true? Could she trust it? The next morning, as they sat at breakfast, Sophie climbed into Grace's lap with a hopeful smile. "Grace, will you stay with us forever?" That question pierced deeper than Michael's proposal. This wasn't just about two adults. It was about a child longing for love. Michael walked in, dressed for work, but his eyes were soft. "Grace," he said, "I meant every word. I'm not asking you out of pity. I'm asking because you've brought Sophie back to life. And me, too. You belong with us not because of what you have, but because of who you are. Tears filled Grace's eyes. For the first time, someone didn't see her brokenness. They saw her heart. That evening, Michael brought Grace and Sophie to the rooftop of his hotel. The city lights shimmered below, but Grace only saw the joy in Sophie's face and the steady devotion in Michael's eyes. Michael knelt not with a diamond ring, but with sincerity shining brighter than any jewel. Grace, he whispered, I don't want perfection. I want you, the woman who comforted my daughter, who worked tirelessly with nothing, who reminded me love still exists. Be my wife, be her mother. Overwhelmed, Grace fell to her knees, tears streaming. Yes, she whispered. Yes, Michael, I will. Sophie squealed with joy, wrapping her little arms around them both. For the first time in years, Grace felt she wasn't just surviving, she had found home. Not made of walls, but of love. Their wedding wasn't about wealth or headlines. It was simple, intimate, and filled with warmth. A billionaire, a homeless waitress, a father, a daughter, and a woman who had finally found her place in the world. And as Grace walked down the aisle in a modest white dress, she realized something profound. Life doesn't always give us what we ask for, it gives us exactly what we need. So remember this, kindness has the power to change everything. Don't give up hope, no matter how dark the night feels, because love often finds us when we least expect it. And before you go, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to HQ Infinite Histories for more heartwarming tales that remind us of the power of compassion.